Previously, on Fire Emblem Gaiden, Alm advances north through Rigelian forces, getting trapped in a mountain range due to a rock slide. Jedah takes this opportunity to goad Celica into becoming a sacrifice for Duma in exchange for Alm's safety. With the rock slide cleared, Alm continues his march towards Rigel Castle, finally fighting face to face with King Rudolf, defeating him. In his last moments, Rudolf reveals that he is Alm's father and that he must take the Sword Falchion to defeat Duma and liberate the continent of Valentia from the wiles of the gods. Celica is in grave danger as well. Hurry, Alm, hurry! With a shocking revelation behind him now, Alm talks to General Massena. Now that Alm is the new King of Rigel, the Rigelian Knights pledge their loyalty to him. A sage says that the nearby stairs will lead to a tunnel that goes all the way to Duma's tower, but once Alm enters, he won't be able to return. All that's left is to make preparations and head towards Duma. Joining from the previous act is Myson, a gold knight. He starts with pretty good HP, strength and defense, but is lacking in growth rates. He starts well enough that he can handle future enemies well. At the very least, he's a good filler unit. Alm climbs down the stairs, going east. As he does so, the path behind him is blocked. There is truly no way back now. Alm advances further east. Celica struggles being audible from afar. As Alm travels, Celica's units will periodically lose HP. After traversing through a long cave tunnel, Alm finds himself in Duma's temple. After going southeast, he finds Celica. She asks Alm to hurry, but the door between them is locked. Alm must find another way to help. Alm goes west, entering a secret dark corridor. At the end of it is a chest that holds the lance Gradius. It has high might, can be thrown as a ranged weapon, is very accurate, and restores 5 HP per turn. I gave it to Zeke. I don't know, felt like it was fitting. I exit the corridor, going further west, finding holes on the floor that will take me to lower floors. I fall down the northwest hole, going down 1 floor. I then go east, initiating combat against an enemy force led by a Cantor, which I defeat easily with Tobin. A wall splits the map into 2 halves, the opening being blocked by fiends. A third fiend will rush to a switch on the floor. This switch will tear down the wall, replacing it with swamp floor. This does pose a bit of a delay, but I slowly make progress to victory. I then head further east, finding more holes on the floor. I fall down the north hole, going down 1 floor. I then head west, initiating another fight, this time against a group of dread fighters led by the Gold Knight Hades. Although most enemies are isolated by a wall, they can make use of a floor tile that will warp units to the other side. This combat is quite precarious, as the high movement of dread fighters threaten my weaker units if my positioning isn't good enough. After a while, the wall opens up, but by that point, the Mogul has multiplied immensely. I managed to get the lucky crit on Hades, but the Moguls take a long time to defeat, since even though Falcon Knight Claire can one-shot them, they easily replenish their losses. So the rest of the fight is a war of attrition until I can make my way inside the room and support Claire with both Zeke and Alm. I continue further west, falling down the southeast hall to the next floor. I then go east, initiating a combat with fiends, witches, dread fighters and Moguls. These Moguls fortunately start close enough to my initial position, defeating them easily on turn 1 to stop any multiplication shenanigans from occurring. Next are the Dread Fighters, as they are the highest movement enemies, with good speed as well. Then the Witches, who love warping but are quite fragile, and finally the Fiends, very bulky but slow and vulnerable to magic. With this combat over, I find a room with a slab that says that only Rigelian royalty is allowed any further. I climb the stairs, entering combat with Liches, stronger versions of Bonewalkers, starting in the center. Alm can easily fight 1 Lich at a time, but as the fight drags on, the walls collapse, leaving Alm vulnerable from all sides. Though in reality all that means is that he can inflict more damage to the enemy per turn. Alm wasn't in any real danger to begin with. After the Liches are defeated, Alm climbs another set of stairs, initiating combat against Death Goyles, stronger versions of Gargoyles. One of the supply tiles in this map will randomly warp itself through the map each turn, leaving behind a desert tile, but it doesn't matter much. This is pretty much the same as the previous map, just with less time spent due to there not being any defensive terrain. With the Death Goyles defeated, Alm climbs the next set of stairs, starting combat with White Dragons, stronger versions of Necro Dragons. They fly over the walls, so there's no point in looking for defensive terrain, they fall easily anyway. Alm has reached the end of the stairway, finding a chest that holds the Falchion. This sword restores 5 HP per turn, is effective against monsters, and has high might, making it a good replacement for Alm's Royal Sword. Alm goes all the way down the stairway, then goes west, falling down a hole to the final floor, finding stairs that lead all the way back to the first floor. I then fall down to the next floor, going all the way east again. This time I fall down the east hole from the bottom, falling down 2 floors. At the south, I find a set of stairs, climbing them all the way back to the first floor, finding the door where Celica's group is. Alm and Celica are finally reunited, but there's no time for pleasantries. Celica warns Alm of Jedah's sealing ability. She had gone through her pilgrimage because she had a premonition that Alm would suffer. Alm ensures it's okay, just hoping that she can escape. This map contains many enemies. Celica's side has many Moguls ready to pounce on her allies, while Alm's side has 3 strong and mobile enemies ready to attack. Celica fortunately has incredibly speedy dread fighters that can outspeed the Moguls, and units capable of casting Seraphim as well. I warp Alm, who can one-shot the Moguls, to Celica's side for further help. Meanwhile, I send Zeke to help against the returning Hades and his dread fighter minions. Duma and Jedah call for more Moguls, making things a bit more complicated, while Zeke intercepts the northwestern units for big damage, defeating Nabirius with a lucky critical hit. The Pegasus sisters help block Mogul aggression. I had bad luck against Hades though, so I go for a bit of a risky maneuver, warping Tobin back west to deal with him, but it isn't enough, so he takes a bit of enemy phase aggression, taking down Hades, so I can easily take down Cerberus on player phase. By this point, 2 bow knights have arrived near Celica's position. I attack one of them with Kamui, using the Brave Sword, take a shot with Leon, attack with Paula, but to end him I have to warp Lufir, so he can cast Excalibur. The second bow knight is defeated with triangle attacks. It is now turn 4. The conditions to defeat Jedah have been met, as he's only vulnerable to damage every 4th turn, and sure enough, triangle attacks end him in 1 round of combat. He drops a mage ring, but I just stored it. Since Jedah's conjuration summons Moguls, they are all cleared. Even those summoned by Duma might be a bug, but it's still helpful. While things seem to be going up, Hestia summons a bunch of witches, slowing down progress. I throw the Gradius at Hestia while making progress defeating the witches, but it's at this point I have gotten close enough to Duma that he starts attacking at melee range with tentacles. Duma is quite a strong boss, having titanic HP and big defense and resistance, although he's not very fast. He also has ranged options in the form of Ocular Beam and Oculus, and can call an upheaval for party-wide damage. I fight Marla with Kamui, easily defeating her. There will be no more witch reinforcements for the rest of the map. Then I face the Arcanist Garn with Tobin to prevent any more castings of Medusa magic. I clear the witches, then the Moguls, Zeke throws the Gradius at Duma for big damage, then I launch triangle attacks with Est. At this point his HP has dropped below 52, meaning he can no longer take any damage from anything that isn't the Falchion Sword or Nosferatu magic. I place Celica 1 tile away of Duma, then place Alm adjacent to her when combating Duma. In what is considered to be a prototypical support system, Alm gets guaranteed critical hits when adjacent to Celica, so Alm inflicts the finishing blow. As Duma is sealed in Falchion, he wishes for the hero Alm to inherit both his power as well as Mila's love, and hopes they never repeat the god's folly, asking for his slumber to not be disturbed. Thus ends Fire Emblem Gaiden. This game had quite a bit of a departure in certain systems compared to its predecessor. It features a traversable world map where you can judge enemy strength, villages and forts that can be visited, much like a traditional RPG, with dungeons included as well. Inventory management is wildly different as well. Slots have been reduced from 4 to 1, the weapon level as a stat has been removed, so any unit can use any weapon of his class. Defense boosting shields and effect granting rings have been introduced as well. Since this game has easy and safe access to infinite sources of experience, it allows for something which is normally not possible in most early Fire Emblem games. Easy grinding, which allows for easier course correction, which is another thing that puts it closer to classic RPGs. On the other hand, this game has a bit of an issue with its maps. Dungeon maps are extremely simplistic with no terrain features. Some maps are repeated even in overworld fights. Indoor terrain boosting evasion makes sense at first, until units from both sides are indoors and combat becomes a slog. Celica's side in particular has quite a bit of deserts and swamps that slow down units considerably. Good thing she has strong flyers. Speaking of units, they have incredibly reduced growths, further increasing the value of promoting units, as promotion still works under the stat catch-up mechanics of the previous game, with its broken stat boosters having been replaced with lion head statues that allow for a more precise sprinkling of stats if need be. All in all, this one feels less like an upgrade over its predecessor and more of a give and take. There are things to like here, but others that could have been handled a bit better. Some frustration aside, I don't think this is a bad game at all. Thank you for watching. Alm and Celica may have finished their duties, but there's yet much to explore. I'll be seeing you next time.